Thank you everyone for joining the session. My name is Manish and currently I'm working at MDSec as security consultant. Previously I worked at Synopsys and I'm mostly interested in web application security and network pen testing. So apart from web app and network pen testing, I'm interested in cloud security platform related stuff as well. So this is about me. So in today talk, I'm going to talk about few things which can actually help us when we are in a situation when web application firewall is actually implemented on a web server and we have RC bug, let's say file upload or code execution or file inclusion attack, and we just want to achieve web shell on the server, but web application firewall is detecting because web application is actually something which can block our payloads and can detect the presence of web shell. And so let's say when we are performing any attack, so in that case it is going to detect it and it's going to block it. So in web application firewall, there is a specialty which can allow us to tune it, and we can actually configure signatures. So same thing is with web shells. So people actually are going to configure web application firewall in such a way that when someone is going to upload web shell or going to access or going to execute command, it may actually detect and block it. So in my talk, I have demonstrated few things, and for those things, I have picked environment, and in that environment, we have web application firewall mode security and Google Cloud Armor Wrap, programming language which I picked, and antivirus which I use. It is PHP and Windows Defender. So my talk will be regarding these things, but similar things can be applicable for other platforms as well. So let's start. So web shell detection by WAF. So when we are talking about detection of web shell by WAF, so there are a few phases in which WAF actually can detect our web shell or its activities. So as we know, web shell actually performs scanning in four places: request header, request body, response header, response body. So let's say the first stage when WAF can actually detect whether someone is trying to upload a web shell. So in that case, web application firewall is going to detect some certain keywords, let's say system function or something like that, or let's say even name of the shell itself. So in that case, stage one, when we are uploading, it may be detected. And stage two, so let's say anyhow we manage to bypass web application firewall, but the problem is when we are trying to access the uploaded web shell, so that web shell interface has some certain keywords. So let's say web shell name itself, for example, B374K or R57. So in that case, web application will scan the HTTP response as well. In that case, it is going to block the request because it has detected some blocked keyword. So that is stage two, means scanning HTTP response and blocking the request. So in this case, let's say we have another phase, stage three. Anyhow, we managed to bypass stage one and stage two. So let's say when we are actually executing command or we are browsing any directory in web server, so let's say etc directory or something. So in that case, again, web application firewall is going to detect the pattern, because when we are going to execute a command or when we are going to browse an internal directory, these things actually going to trigger web application firewall rules regarding command execution or directory traversal or something like that, because these are similar. So that's stage three. So during that stage as well, our web shell may get detected by WAF. So in this whole presentation, we will be talking about how to bypass these things and how to perform operations using web shell. So let's say talking about stage one. So when we are uploading web shell, that is stage one. So let's say we have one PHP shell. Now web application firewall is actually detecting because it has some certain keywords. Let's say web shell name and other things we can bypass easily, but what about function and other things? Because these are the things which we need to take care of. And let's say when we are uploading something and we have managed to bypass web shell, firewall. So in that case, web shell will be detected by antivirus because of other keywords. So let's work on this one. For in case of PHP, we have some weird things, and we can actually obfuscate function name in really weird manner. Let's say we can uh, save function name in a string, and then we can use that variable as a function name, and it is actually going to refer to that function. So let's say in my case, I have written string reverse function and then saying system, which is in reverse order. So if I'm going to tell, okay, string reverse, please can you reverse the string, and then whatever the output, please use it to execute command who am I. So we can use this type of thing, but it is not supported in every programming language. But if we have something like this, we can use, or let's say this is another technique. So in this one, I'm just putting strings in an array and then concatenating those arrays and those array values, and then I'm executing command while get parameter. So these things can actually help us to upload something which is not going to get detected by web. And there is another thing. So let's say if we are going to customize a web shell, sometimes it's not possible to customize whole web shell code. What should we do? So there is another thing. We can actually go for loader shell, which is actually going to get uploaded to server, and then it's going to call another web shell, which will be performing full operations such as command execution and the backend. So on the idea of loader shell, I have actually developed one shell. Its name is Incredible Shell, and it's all about session variable. So when we are actually uploading this web shell is having nothing, but just it's like fetching content of main web shell into session variable, and then executing that web shell, which is stored in session variable, and evaluating it. So when we are uploading, there is no signature web is going to report because code is very small. So let's say this is the code of that web shell. And here you can see it's all about like, okay, we are just fetching the content, holding it in session variable. If session variable is set, it means we have loaded web shell in session variable, and then we are going to evaluate the code. So this type of code, web application firewall is hardly going to report because the keywords which I have used or the function which I have used are not the one which are considered dangerous, or it's like it's not been there is no signature for these, because when we are, so let's say when we are maintaining WordPress or Joomla websites, so in that case our code may have these type of functions, so we are not going to put signature for these things, and it may result in bypassing of web application firewall. So here is the demo of that web shell. So in this web shell, I'm just specifying the URL of remotely hosted web shell. It's a loader shell, and now it's going to load full web shell in its interface. So here you can see I have loaded full web shell, and now you can execute the command. You can browse the directory or whatever you want to do. So it's a custom web shell, and it's stored in session variable only. So let's talk about case of Google Cloud Armor web. Now in this one, uploading web shell or bypassing Google Cloud Armor web is so easy because of some weird thing in Google Cloud Armor web. So Google Cloud Armor web is something which is a cloud-based firewall, and in this one, when I was doing assessment, so I noticed something. So we remember, do you remember when back days in firewalls, we actually had PCRE limit accessation as attack trick. It's like we can actually feed junk data in post body, and then firewall is not able to scan it because of the size limit. Same thing is with Google Cloud, and it's not because of the scanning limit, it's because they have defined the limit itself. It's like you can just we can actually going to scan only 8 KB of HTTP post body, that's all. if your application is going to have more than 8 KB, please drop the request, which is not the way to tackle the situation, but they have. And it is actually mentioned on their official Google Cloud webpage that, okay, we are not going to scan more than 8 KB. Now, being an attacker, we have an advantage and we can bypass. We need not to do anything. We just need to specify 8 KB plus data in post body, and Google Cloud Armor WAF is not going to scan it at all. So it's like you need not to develop anything. We just need to specify some junk data in post body. It should be more than 8 KB. That's all. So here is a demo of the issue. So I have hosted DUWA on Google Cloud Armor WAF protected web application. So right now there is no shell with pond.php. I'm trying to upload a web shell. And now Google Cloud Armor WAF has actually detected that somebody is trying to upload a shell. But let's try to bypass it using this 8 KB trick. And I'm just copying the data. It's more than 10 KB. So let's browse the shell again. And hopefully this time it's going to work, because Google itself is saying, okay, we are going to allow more than, we are not going to scan the body of. So I have renamed it and I just added this junk data and forwarding request. So let's hope for the best. Yeah, you can see the shell has been uploaded and we need not to do anything. Now our web shell is there and we actually bypassed Google Cloud Armor WAF, and we need not to do anything. That's all. We just need to pad the body with more than 8 KB junk data. That's all. So it's about Google Cloud Armor WAF. So let's talk about stage two. Stage two is, let's say we have managed to bypass stage one and we have managed to upload web shell, but when we are trying to access it, in that case, it may get detected. And to bypass that detection, we just need to remove the keywords which has been detected. And those keywords are the keywords which are actually returned in HTTP response of the web shell. So it's really easy to bypass this phase. We just need to figure out which keyword has been detected, and it's easy. So let's say in my case, I have mode security configured in my machine and I try to access B374K shell. Now in screenshot, you can see the pattern match was title containing keyword B374K and it's been blocked. And to bypass it, it's just simple. Just replace every keyword which is going to get flagged or which is related to web shell, at least for non-web shell, and that's all. So we can bypass it easily. This is really simple trick. So let's talk about stage three, which is the main one. So let's say we have managed to bypass stage one. We uploaded web shell. We have actually removed every keyword which is going to get detected. Now, when we have access to web shell and when we are trying to execute any OS command or trying to browse the files, because let's say consider a case when we are performing PenTest for external infrastructure. So in that case, if we are going to get a web shell, we can drop our beacon file, we can do something, and we can try to perform post exploitation. But for that one, we need to bypass this phase. And when we are trying to execute any command or we are trying to upload any file, so in that case, if it is getting detected, it's a little bit frustrating. So we are going to bypass this phase as well. And it's really easy. All I need to do is bypass, for this bypass, we are just going to encrypt everything. And to do so, I just chose JavaScript. So it's like, uh, this is a web shell which is getting detected when we are executing command. And this is the situation when we try to browse a file in etc directory and it blocked again. So it's like how to bypass this one. So encryption on the fly we talked about, and for this one I developed a custom web shell And in this web shell, it's like JavaScript is going to perform encryption of any command or file or directory I'm going to browse, and then it's going to send it to server. And on server side, that encrypted data will be decrypted and will be executed. And once it's been executed, the command output or directory list or content of the file will be returned in either encoded form or encrypted form, so that WAF is not going to block it during HTTP response scanning. So this is the web shell, and the moment we are going to browse it, JavaScript is automatically going to generate secret and IV. So this web shell is going to use JavaScript-based AES encryption, and it is going to use the secret and IV. And the interesting thing is, the secret and IV are not hard-coded. The moment we are going to refresh the web shell, JavaScript will generate them dynamically. The moment we are going to click button, those values will be stored in browser in local storage, and to pass these values to shell so that a web shell can actually perform decryption of any command or anything. We have stored these value on server side in session variable. Why? Because we don't want to store anything in web shell. It's in session variable, until the moment our session is live, those keys are on server, and the moment we are going to click end session, those keys will be removed. So this is how this web shell is going to perform operation. So the moment we are going to execute a command, it will be encrypted, and on server side, shell will decrypt them, will execute, and will return the output. So this is the demo how this web shell is working. So let's say I'm just going to show the more security audit logs. So we have B374K shell and trying to execute command to grab the content of passwd file, but it's been flagged by more security firewall. So let's say because of this one, because it's a command execution, so that's why it's been detected. So let's try with this web shell, which is having JavaScript-based encryption. So here we can execute any command, and we are going to execute the same command, and you can see it's it actually returned the output. Now you can see the content is actually encrypted, means the command plus the output. Its output is actually base 64 encoded, command is actually base 60 AES 256 encrypted. So in this case, it's not going to get detected because everything is encrypted or encoded. So firewall is not going to block the request. So those are the things which are normal. But let's say consider the scenario when we just want to perform post exploitation and we want to hide our traffic from SOC team, or we just want to perform operation in stealthy way. So in this case, I'm going to use loader web shell in such a way so that we can actually blend our traffic with legit one. And to do so, what I did is like, okay, we are going to inject loader file in a file of the web application, which is getting included in other files as well. And then going to make a request to loader file by arbitrary web page, load full web shell. Now this web shell is saved in session variable. So whichever the web page we are going to use, going to access, it's been converted in web shell for us, but for other user, other visitor, that web page is still a normal web page. So it's like we are going to blend in with legit traffic, and it will be hard for SOC team to analyze the logs and to determine where actually the web shell is. So this is actually the code which I have injected in wp-config.php. Now we know that config.php file is actually included in other parts of WordPress. So let's say I have just injected only loader shell, and now when I'm going to make index call to index.php, actually I'm calling loader web shell and saying, okay, loader web shell, please can you load a web shell hosted on this URL? And it's going to say, yeah, I'm going to do so. Now it's been loaded and whole website has been converted into web shell for us, but for other visitors, it's just a normal web application. Why? Because we have specified in our loader shell only show it to those who have this session cookie, and for other user, it will be still a website. So let me show you the demo. So here is the WordPress application which has been compromised, and let's say this is the web shell hosted remotely. I want to inject this web shell in this WordPress, but I don't want to drop this web shell on server directly because SOAK team may analyze the logs and then they can figure out. So I have injected this loader code, and this code is actually going to fetch the shell code from remote URL, going to hold it in session variable, and then going to execute the code if session variable is populated with web shell code. So in this demo, I'm just demonstrating that, okay, I have intercepted the request because I just want to load the shell. So I'm just copying the URL and commanding to loader shell to load web shell. Here you can see now this web application has been converted into a web shell, and we can actually access the functionalities. Any page, it's actually converted into web shell just for us because we have configured this web shell and we have session cookie for this session. So now we can actually access it. But for any other visitor, this website is still a normal one. So this is actually a way to hide the traffic of our web shell, and we can perform some operation in stealthy way. So let's talk about another scenario. So it's like I'm going to unleashing the power of a web shell because when it's come to external PenTest, the best part is compromising web application and entering to internal network and then performing post exploitation. So it's a real life scenario from one of the assessments I did. It's like I want to achieve reverse shell connection, plus I want to perform pivoting, and I actually had few challenges, and those challenges are like when I was trying to get reverse shell. So as I am a web app pen tester guy, I have very limited knowledge regarding antivirus bypassing, and netcat or MSF venom binaries are getting detected. So it's like how to bypass this one. Instead of going for some elite trick, I'm just going for simple trick. It's like, okay, uploading a Rust-based binary, which is actually going to spin up a WebSocket-based reverse shell and going to land me in PowerShell console. So that's something we are going to demonstrate using this web shell. And second one is pivoting. So let's say I want to reach to domain controller, and I have managed to compromise one web app, which is hosted inside the network, and it's accessible over internet. So it's like accessing that machine without having beacon connection or something like that. And finally, we are going to hide our uh, tunneling traffic from SOAK team, and we are going to actually save our foothold as well. So we are going to perform something so that we are going to tunnel our traffic in safer manner. So it's like reverse shell. As I told you that netcat based reverse shell was getting detected. So just a reverse shell which is developed in Rust, and it's going to initiate connection using WebSocket. So let's try for this one. So this is the demo, and in this case, I am actually not hard coding reverse shell in web shell, but I'm going to browse the web shell, reverse shell, and then going to drop it on machine. So here you can see Windows Defender is updated till 8/27/2022, and I'm going to upload. So in here, my server is listening, and it's a WebSocket based server, and I'm just browsing the binary to get reverse shell, and this reverse shell is actually going to initiate WebSocket based request. So here you can see WebSocket based connection has been established, And now I can execute the command, and it's actually dropped me in PowerShell based console. So here you can see the output. We are in PowerShell console. And if you check this fact that, okay, client.exe has been started, antivirus didn't flag it at all because it's Rust-based binary and we are just initiating connection over WebSocket. So antivirus is happy with it and it's not saying anything. And the moment we uploaded binary, it was actually first AES encrypted and then base64 encoded. So it's like you can drop your binary on server in safer manner instead of hard coding it in web shell, and then we can actually have a reverse shell connection. Okay, the last one is unleashing the power of web shell to perform HTTP tunneling. Because let's say in my case, I don't have anything, so I just have a web shell. I'm going to I just want to make max out of it. So I'm just going to upload web shell and going to use HTTP tunneling based script and going to pivot inside the network. So let's say in this case, HTTP tunneling is something which actually allow us to expose internally hosted host or their ports to attacker via a web app which has been compromised, and we can actually inject HTTP tunneling script using our loader shell, as loader shell is actually allow us to load this HTTP tunneling script without dropping it on server, and but just going to hold it in session variable. So it's actually an advantage for us, and we can actually tunnel our traffic using legit web page, and we can actually blend in our traffic with legit user traffic. So I have used one PHP based HTTP tunneling script from this repository. It's really nice. So in this demo, I'm actually going to demonstrate. So we have compromised WordPress, and in this WordPress, I have injected loader web shell in config file, because this file is included in other places as well, and I can make call to this one via any page. So here I'm just saying, okay, loader web shell, there is a HTTP tunneling script hosted on this URL. Please can you load it for me? I just need to copy the session variable because loader shell is all about session. So we need to tell to this Python script, okay, once you are going to reach to this script and you just expose this internal IP port number 3389, that is RDP, to my local port 1083. So I'm just specifying cookie as well, because when Python script is going to make a request, it need to web application supposed to figure out, okay, this is the cookie. So loader shell will be called and it will actually allow us to browse this one. So here you can see port 3389 has been exposed to 1083 port of our local machine. I'm trying to log into RDP, and here we go. It's like we can log into RDP. So now the best thing is we are actually tunneling our traffic to internal network using loader web shell, and loader web shell can be accessed anywhere in web application, which actually help us to hide our traffic. And it's like by simply analyzing the logs, it won't be easy to detect where actually the web shell is saved on the server. And the moment we are going to destroy the session variable, this tunneling script or any web shell which we are hosting using session variable will be destroyed. So that's all about my presentation. I want to say thanks to these guys, because these guys actually helped me with some ideas. They came up with some tricks and I implemented them. And yeah, special thanks to everyone out there who are awesome and inspiring me every day and every time.